Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
We have a wonderful show for you today. We have several bits of news first, but we are going to be talking about the CD. Yes, the compact disc. Yes, that paperweight that you have in your house of your favorite bands from high school. Or maybe some of you just have them because you were thanked in the credits, like you and I.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just happen to have something from whatever time in your life that made you feel special, and it's a piece of music on a disc, and it's smaller than vinyl. Maybe you have vinyl too, but we could talk about that some other day.
Mm-hmm.
The CD, the compact disc, I don't even know if we'll get into the Sega CD, which is totally different. But we need a musical device.
I think the Sega CD could probably be its own episode too.
That probably could be. Maybe we'll do that. All right, let's put that in the idea thing. I'm gonna do that now. Sega CD. Okay, now it's in our Discord chat, so it's a topic. There's some behind the scenes stuff. All right, so I would like to start by saying I am now a fiance or a fiancé or a fiance or a fiance. I don't know what the male term of it is, but my lady is a fiance, and I guess I'm a fiance too, or whatever word you may have. A fiance, you might say. I popped the question on Labor Day. It's not important how I did it. All right, fine. I'll tell you. You're really twisting my arm here. We were watching TV, and she was sitting on the couch. So I got up from bed. I walked over to the other room. I pulled out the engagement ring. I slapped it down on the table. I said, "All right, here you go," and I walked away. I went to the store. I went for a run. I came back 12 hours later, and she was wearing it.
All right.
So, I'll take that as a yes. Yay me. Of course I'm kidding. That's not how I did it, but I'm not going to share that story here. It's very romantic and jazzy, and I'm sure everybody who's listening on YouTube will be giving us a big thumbs down for like me either me telling the fake story or me telling the real story. So I'm just going to take all the thumbs down and all the heat for this one.
See, what you should have done is like two truths and a lie, and then so you tell three different stories, and one of them, or two lies and a truth, because then they have to guess what it is.
Oh, that might have been good. But I mean, I still haven't told them any of the others, so I could tell them three other things. I could be lying right now.
Who knows?
I don't know. But
don't forget to like, comment, and to subscribe, and tell us if Chris is lying or not.
Yes, tell us whether or not I actually am engaged, or if I even did any of these things. Let us know in the comments section. Speaking of lions, Jeff Lowe from Tiger King has a warrant issued for his arrest after missing the court hearing. Do you remember this time? Remember this months ago how we said that he was not going to show for the court date? Well, guess what? He didn't do it.
Well, big surprise. I mean, has anybody had this surprise at all at this point?
No, there's nothing that has spurred out of this show that is surprising me at all in the slightest. Well, I guess Joe Exotic's cancer diagnosis kind of sucks, so I feel bad about that. But
Oh, I didn't know about that either.
I think he said that he's like got like pancreatic cancer or something like that.
Oh,
So he's
jeez,
also
that's
got his literal manhunt show that he's like trying to work on in prison or out of or like when he gets out. I don't really know, but he's trying to do like his own version of The Bachelor. So I guess that'll go however it goes. Good. I hope he finds a new husband. I guess, and I hope that he beats cancer and does things. I don't wish bad things on people, except Jeff Lowe, who bad things should probably happen to him. Um, not from other people inflicting violence, of course. But okay, maybe I should stop talking. Um, so a few weeks ago, the Jeff Lowe surrendered all of his remaining exotic animals over to the Department of Justice, and he had to get rid of all of his animals. So those are all totally gone. After all the inspections, he's got to do all those things. He's got to get rid of them and whatever. No surprise that that was going to happen. Um, he has okay, yeah. The DOJ took control of the 61 animals being handed over, I believe. I'm looking at Lad Bible. It looks like this is what's happened. Um, Joe Exotic has also changed his mind about. Oh, this was in January. All right, that's all. People probably know that he doesn't feel good about animals being in cages anymore. Okay, um, here's what we're getting to. So Jeff Lowe and I guess his wife, whatever, they didn't show up. This is from NME.com. Enemy? Is that how you spell? Is that how you say it? That's kind of grim. Yeah, 4 bench warrants have been issued for his arrest. I
oh,
don't understand why they're doing this from the bench where they should be approaching him on foot if they want to get this guy to appear in court. Hey, that was a really bad segue. Yeah, so he didn't show up, surprise, surprise, for a hearing in Las Vegas Municipal Court on yesterday, September 8th. Um, as of our recording, this is connected to a 2017 case where he was charged. Unfortunately, this is being attributed to TMZ. I don't like TMZ. I think they should be destroyed because it's the lowest of the low tabloid journalism. But I digress. Enemy doesn't seem to have a problem with this. Um, Warrants connected to a 2017 case where he was charged with 3 counts of not having a license or permit for wild animals and 1 count of doing business without a license. It is reported that Lowe has to pay $20,500 to settle all 4 warrants and get a new court date. Oh, is that all? In June this year, Lowe and his wife Lauren were arrested in Oklahoma City on charges of driving under the influence. I think we talked about that. This follows an incident in May where the federal authorities seized 68 protected lion-tiger hybrids, and a jaguar from the couple's Oklahoma Zoo after they were accused of violating the Endangered Species Act. I guess nothing happened to the partridge and the pear tree. They're probably dead. Fellow zookeeper and Tiger King star Eric Cowie was found dead this week in Brooklyn, New York, at the age of 52. Oh, that sucks. I think he was the guy with the long hair. That was like
oh, really?
of like Joe Exotic's ragtag group of rogues. Um,
Huh.
yeah. Okay then. Oh yeah, it was that guy. That sucks. Yeah, the guy who kind of looked like a skinnier version of Jerry Cantrell from Alice in
Oh,
Chains.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, that sucks.
I actually felt bad for that guy too because he like actually genuinely loved the animals and was like really like heartbroken. I think when you know like the tigers died or like he like the tigers were taken away and the zoo was closed and all that stuff. Like he was, you know, he actually
Yeah.
seemed like he actually gave a shit.
Yeah. I mean, all the other employees seemed like they actually did care.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
they all stayed there was like just because they actually cared for all the animals and they didn't really like what was going on, but they cared for the animals.
Hmm.
That sucks. So yeah, he died Friday in New York City. Um, NYPD. This is the Oklahoman. New York City Police Department reported officers found the man unconscious in the bedroom of a residence Friday evening after responding to a 911 call. EMS pronounced the man deceased at the scene. Police reported they did not describe the death as suspicious. The medical examiner will determine the cause of death. That sucks.
Yeah.
A moment of silence for Eric Cowie.
Yeah.
Kind of grim now that I'm talking about. I'm going from being engaged to talking about Tiger King and this. So I guess I'm not off to a good track record. Let's commence. Let me give a little sponsor spiel or whatever. Rest in peace, Eric Cowell, and also rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. That was also very sad. Maybe I shouldn't have announced my engagement on this podcast.
Yeah, what a downer.
Yeah, this is really grim. I'm sorry, everybody. If you like what we're doing, and I don't mean commenting on these things, but if you like us being silly and you enjoy listening to the show and all the other things that we do, you can head on over to our Patreon where you can get access to some bonus things by giving us a little bit of dough and letting us pay the bills, including paying off my engagement ring and helping me pay for my wedding. Wouldn't that be nice from each and every one of you? That's right. If somewhere between 65,000 of you and 100,000 of you can give me $1, that would be freaking great. Actually, why stop there? Give us if 200,000 of you can give us $1, Rob can do whatever Rob needs to do. Rob can buy Tiger King Zoo from Carol Baskin and run it himself.
Oh God, no.
All right, maybe he won't do all that.
I don't want that responsibility.
Okay, so well, he'll find something nice to do. Maybe he'll invest in a roller coaster, and he'll make a bunch of money in an amusement park.
All right,
let's do that. You can so patreon.com/whydoesthisexist is where you can help fund our dreams. If you know of anything weird that's going on in pop culture, let us know at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. You can also check out all of our episodes and a bunch of really cool articles and a few other things at whydoesthisexistpod.com. And you can also track us down on social media by following us on Twitter at WDTEpod and Facebook.com/whydoesthisexistpod. You can also find us on YouTube, like we said before, at Why Does This Exist? Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell that nobody cares about. Not the wedding bell, everyone cares about that, and I'm caring about that one either. In fact, I'm caring about several. Wow, what a bad segue I am tonight. It's honestly, it's kind of late. I'm been a little bit tired, but I've got enough energy to keep going right here. You can also find us on the following channels where all of your audio devices are. That means right now, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, TuneIn, Alexa, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, and Stitcher. Let's get on with the goddamn show. The compact disc, the CD, a digital optical disc. I can't read this.
A digital audio device.
Yes. Co-developed by Philips and Sony to store and play digital audio recordings. In August of 1982, the first compact disc was manufactured. It was then released in October 1982 and branded as Digital Audio Compact Disc. Boy, does that roll off the tongue. And then in some point in the early 90s, I believe, a video game called Revolution X was released by featuring Aerosmith, where you were in a dystopian future and you had to shoot CDs and platinum records at bad guys, killing them. And yes, the bad guys were a terrorist organization.
They would just explode into body parts when you hit them with a CD.
Yes, blowing up helicopters armed with nuclear missiles those things were no match for the CD, baby. We will talk about Aerosmith's Revolution X at some later date. So I guess you could call that a teaser, if you will. But the CDs are important, and not just for vanquishing your foes.
Yeah, the CD was
Music too.
the primary audio format since the mid 80s until now. Actually, it took over, I believe, from the cassette in the early 90s, but was available since the early 80s. Actually, the first commercial compact disc was produced 17th of August 1982. And the first title to go platinum on the compact disc was let's see. Oh, it was Dire Straits' album, 1985 album, Brothers in Arms. So that was the first CD to sell over 1 million copies.
Oh,
And so, interesting fact about the early days of the CD.
I would have put money on Prince.
Well,
Prince or Michael Jackson. I would have put. I would have
yeah,
put money on those
right.
guys.
No, yeah, but apparently no. It was the first artist was Dire Straits with their 1985 album Brothers in Arms,
Wow, that's
which
super.
is really that's actually pretty surprising. The first major artist to have their entire catalog converted to CD was David Bowie. Um,
Um,
so
yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah. Interesting fact about the early days of CD. The original length of the CD was, let me see. The first playing time was 74 minutes, and that was suggested by Sony's then vice president Norio Oga, who wanted it to be able to fit his favorite symphony, which was a recording of Beethoven's Ninth from 1951. So it was exactly 74 minutes. So he thought that the CD should be at least 74 minutes. And since then, it's changed a little bit. Various CDs have come out that have had longer than that. I know, I think it was Load, Metallica's album Load actually was so long that it actually kind of started to make really push the limits of the CD, and it's been known to have some audio issues. In fact, my copy of Load that I have has like some like weird like staticky sounds in the middle of some of the songs, and I think it's because it was so long that it really pushed the limits of the format, and that kind of like would cause glitches to happen.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. CD has been my favorite format. I used to collect CDs. I haven't bought a CD in a long time now, especially because Spotify is a thing. So I just listen to all my music on Spotify pretty much. But I used to collect CDs, and I have quite an extensive collection. I probably have well over 100 CDs.
Yeah, I
Um,
had I had I had quite a CD collection myself. Um, I don't know how many I have now. I got rid of most of them. I think there's only
yeah.
a handful of like obscure ones that I kept.
Hmm.
Not even sure why I kept all of them because, well, I'm not sure. There's some that I kept because like from our band days,
Yeah.
we helped out a lot of like smaller underground bands like ourselves. Like Incinerator and Condition Critical, and we've been thanked on the liner notes of the albums.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's at least 6 or 7 albums that one of or both of us have been like thanked in from that little area, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I So those I've kept
Yeah.
for obvious reason. A lot of the other ones, I'm not sure why I've kept all of them. My big thing for a while, well, my favorite medium is vinyl. Nothing
Yeah.
sounds like vinyl. Like there's just something beautiful about it. The way
Yeah.
you just hear it on the wax, you hear every little pick scrape and everything that happened in that room. It's all picked up on the wax. What
Hmm.
like the CD, they've cleaned things up a little bit, not significantly, but they've cleaned it up enough where like you won't hear like pick scrapes or things like that, or you won't, there's definitely a quality difference. So it's like
Yeah.
there's a partial sound loss, but there's also like more finishing touches that are put on things.
Well, see, the thing about CDs, and this is why I like CDs, is that it is uncompressed digital audio, as opposed to like MP3s, which are compressed, and you definitely do lose some of the breathiness of the track. CDs are 16-bit and 44.1 kilohertz, 44.1 kilohertz. So they have it, you hear way beyond what is in the range of human hearing, and that definitely helps make it kind of like air. It doesn't sound compressed. It sounds very like open. Yeah, it's not as good as vinyl, because vinyl is an analog format, so it's like it's a physical thing that you're hearing. The record is physically pressed, and the needle is bouncing off a physical groove. So there's definitely more. That analog sound, it's way different than a digital sound, because you're actually hearing what was put onto the record. But CD, in terms of digital audio, I think is the most superior, just because for the fact that it is uncompressed, and you don't have that loss that you get with MP3s. There are some lossless compression formats that are used, like I think FLAC, I believe,
Yeah,
it is
it's
lossless compression.
yeah,
But it was always fun to collect CDs, because much like a vinyl, you get the liner notes, you get cool artwork, and you just simply don't get that with pure digital formats.
no, it's
CD is
just
kind of like the best of both worlds.
yeah, because it's also smaller too, and it's a lot more
Yes.
durable than a vinyl would be. Because I mean,
Yes.
if you just look at a vinyl record the wrong way, it's just gonna like explode into a million pieces.
Yes.
Where like CDs, like if you've ever tried to like break a CD, or you've broken or if you've broken a CD, like they can take a pounding, and then you
Yeah.
can always like kind of buff it out too, and then it'll work like new. It like CDs are they're made they're made to be beaten up,
Yes.
as opposed to records and cassette tapes, which a cassette tape might be slightly more durable than a record, but like barely.
Yeah. Yeah, well, cassette. The problem is that they would often like get unwound, and the
Right.
tape would get all out, and then sometimes you could kind of wind it back up, but sometimes it was ruined. It
Yeah.
was really hard to ruin a CD. You had to like really scratch it to make it not play anymore.
Yeah, you had
And
to
like
try.
I had plenty of CDs that were beat to hell, and I could still listen to the music on them. You know, it
Yeah.
got a little bit when in terms of like when CDs started to be used for video games. Like there was some early formats like the Sega CD, but I think the first like really mainstream console that had exclusively CDs was the Sony PlayStation,
Hmm.
and the disc could get pretty scratched up and still work, but there was a point where all of a sudden it would be hard, it wouldn't load stuff.
Well, yeah,
Um,
video games could not hold up to whatever the resistance
right.
an audio CD could take up.
Which kind of makes sense, because there's way more data. It's audio and video and like other data that's being streamed out of. So scratches, I could see why that would ruin them.
Right, because it'll jack up the programming, and once the programming because on a CD there's no code there. Like on
Correct.
a
Yeah.
video game CD, like there's God knows how much code that's been programmed
Right.
into this thing. So if like if the wrong thing gets scratched on a video game, then like all of the code in that section is just gone. So of course it's
Yeah.
not going to load.
I will say one of the coolest things about the PlayStation and PlayStation games in particular was that several games you could actually put into a CD player and listen to soundtracks.
That's correct.
Um,
All the Twisted Metal games, I think, were like that. At least 3 and 4 were, and
and
I love
Castlevania
that.
Symphony of the Night had a secret track
Yeah.
It was an unused song that was going to be in the game, but they didn't end up using it, so they put it on as a secret. It was on track two of the CD. You had to put the CD in, and then skip to track two, and you would have a little audio clip of Alucard saying, "Don't play track one because it contains game data and stuff." And then they would play the track. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Know
but
about that one, but you could do that on plenty of there were several
oh yeah,
where you could do that. I mean, you have to look up which ones, but
yeah.
it was always cool. And like I think I don't even remember how I found out to do that, because I was like maybe like 13 or something,
Hmm.
and maybe somebody told me at school, or
Yeah.
like
Well, that was kind of like when how things, how we learned secrets about stuff back in the day. It was like the rumors on the schoolyard because this was the early days of the internet, so you really couldn't just look it up online. So like you had to like wait for your friend to tell you, and usually they heard it from their friend, who heard it from their friend, who heard it from their friend who actually did it. They just put this. Oh, they're like, oh, let me see what happens if I put my PlayStation game in my CD player and see what happens, and it would just come on, and they'd be
yeah.
like, oh, cool.
Yeah, or maybe I don't even know. I'm trying, or like maybe like somebody had put it in my Walkman, thinking that it was a music thing. I don't even know, but somehow it wound up in my Walkman, and I just really started listening to like every band that was on there. I didn't know any of them
Mhm.
for like Rob Zombie and Power Man 5000, but like I didn't care. I was like, this is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And after that, I started trying every single PlayStation game that I had just to see if it did it. So like, I
Yeah.
would buy the game. I would buy the game, and instead of just like playing it, the first thing I would do is put it in my CD player just to
Hmm.
see if it makes me, just to see if there's music on it, and then I would end up put like this is what kind of like a music geek I am, that I just like I didn't
Yeah.
bother like I didn't even care about the video game. I just want to know, can I listen to the soundtrack?
Yeah.
And some of them would play, some of them would not. I can't remember any other specifics. Um, but
I'm sure you could look up a list online now
oh yeah,
of
now
what
there's
what
probably
PlayStation games you can play on a CD player.
yeah. I'm sure, and I'm sure I would be. I'm sure we'd be very surprised at like which ones we could and couldn't.
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you brought up the Walkman because the Walkman, I think, was one of the greatest music players ever invented. And I'll tell you why. Um, it never friggin' quit. It never broke. My Walkman I had for years, and I would beat the crap out of it. I put it in my backpack. I would friggin' like bring it to school with me, listen to it on the bus, like, and it never broke and never had any problems with skipping. You could like shake the thing while the CD was playing, and it wouldn't skip. The Walkman was probably the greatest. The Sony Walkman specifically, because I had other no name brand ones like that were just like CD players that you could walk around with, and they were shitty. The Sony Walkman was the ultimate like portable CD player, and I had so many memories of just listening to like Black Sabbath and Ozzy and Weird Al and like all these like these bands that I grew up listening to, and like it was the best music that ever, like um and I think the best thing about CDs, especially when we were starting to get more into high school and stuff, was making like mix CDs. And
Yeah,
that's when kind of like that's when like digital started to be more of a thing. Like people would download stuff from like LimeWire and Kazaa and all that stuff, and you would just put it on a CD. And it's weird when we think about it now because it's like we're downloading it digitally from the internet onto our computers, but then we're still putting it on a CD, a physical format, and bringing it around with us. But it was so cool because you could just put any songs you want on the CD, and it was like stuff you would never hear normally on the radio. Like I had a couple of CDs that had like soundtracks from video games and like just stuff that you would normally never hear or be able to get on a regular CD. So it was really cool.
yeah. This was so helpful for me in high school, because I couldn't visit like when I was really getting into like thrash metal, death metal, I mean,
Hmm.
especially for like death metal. And I didn't, I was like 14, like 14, 15 or whatever, and it wasn't like I was just gonna like get a job because like
Hmm.
they just weren't hiring like 15 or 16-year-olds or whatever. I couldn't get a job wherever I wanted to go. And I wasn't gonna beg my parents for like CDs every like so often. Um, like I might get lucky here and there, but I wasn't gonna ask them for like a new CD every day. And
Right.
we didn't really, and like you said, the internet was still somewhat in its in like more of like, well, not infancy, but like more of like the toddler stage.
Yeah.
And I either like I would get my music mostly from from radio, so I get it from K Rock.
Hmm.
That station, rest in peace, because I don't know what it is now. And every once
Something bad.
every once in a while I would get WSOU also if I turn the dial just right
Yeah.
to listen to some metal on WSOU.
Hmm.
But I would download everything from whatever. I would just go to like fye.com or like bestbuy.com, and I would just type in death metal in this
Hmm.
bar, or I would type in thrash metal or whatever I wanted to get, and I would just see whatever popped up, and I just picked the band with like the coolest artwork and the coolest logo and like the most like sounding things, and
Hmm.
I would look at that track listing and I would look at the album and I would just download all of the songs from that album, and then I would rip it onto a CD, but I couldn't just rip it onto the CD. I had to buy like a bunch of different colored Sharpies.
Oh yeah.
I like would draw the logos perfectly, and I would try to draw like parts of the artwork on it if I could. I would
Hmm.
out the track listing, and I would just like I would get really like artsy with this stuff. Like the best stuff that I ever did was the Morbid Angel albums. Those looked really cool because they had the best logo. I mean, I've heard that the band itself. I've heard that they're like kind of like drama queens about things,
Hmm.
to say the least, but that's totally different. Um, but I would do that with so many things, and like the Slayer albums, like I just drew everything on them. Iron Maiden albums, they would be like the whole thing, like
Hmm.
would just be totally covered. I would just like I would just go to town on it with certain bands. So that was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I it was always like, and it's the if there are any like kids watching that really didn't grow up with CDs, like they don't realize like you would go to the store, you would buy like literally like 100 CDs in like a giant plastic friggin' like ring thing, basically, and it would just sit on your computer desk, and you would like take CDs one at a time and like put stuff on there, and like after you would download. And I think really the best thing about it was that like even if you weren't downloading off the internet because that's illegal piracy and all that, you could like go to your friend's house and borrow his CD and like rip it to your computer and then you would have the CD. So like if you didn't have the money to buy CDs, like you said, you couldn't ask your parents to buy you a new CD every day. Or we weren't working, we were in high school or like even like middle school, and we didn't have jobs to pay for it. So like to get new music, you kind of had to like trade, with your
Yeah.
friends, or get it offline. And it's almost like the tape trade back in the 80s, and in the metal scene, it
Oh,
was
it was
like,
very similar to that.
yeah. And it's just sad that like Metallica was the one that kind of put the kibosh on it when they sued Napster, because they were the ones that like were doing the tape trade, back in the 80s, which, again, I could see their side of it too. There is like, obviously there is a certain like you should be paid for
Yeah,
what you do.
it's
So it's kind of
understandable.
like it's a double-edged sword. Like it could go either way. Um, but like it was so cool that you could do that. And then like even when the iPod came out, I remember I got my first iPod Nano for Christmas when I was, I think, 17 or 16. I
I
think it
had
was, I might have been 16.
I had a
But I still,
shuffle.
yeah, but the Nano I think was the next level up from the Shuffle. So you had like a little bit more. So I think the Shuffle could only have like 100 songs, and the Nano could have like 500 songs or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would still buy CDs though. Like yeah, if I got like a iTunes gift card or something, I would go on iTunes and buy music. But like I still liked having CDs because I could, and I would still listen to them in my car. Like sometimes I would listen to my iPod, but sometimes I would bring a CD with me because I was like, especially if I went to a show and I bought a brand new CD from the band at the show. It's like the first thing I did as soon as I got back into my car after the show was put the CD in because I wanted to listen to their music.
Yeah.
You know?
It would be the same way. I would go to the show, I would buy the CD, I would come home and I would listen to it, and it was just.
Hmm.
I still did that up until like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Would still do that with certain bands. Like I would just comment, like I did that with Ghoul. I would just buy, like if a band was if a band was playing and they had CDs, I would just buy like every CD that they had, and that would be my like trinkets for the thing. If I didn't want any more T-shirts, I would just buy the CD. And now I I don't really have enough space to buy either. Not that I really plan on going to any shows anytime soon, and not that you really can even, not that there's even any shows to go to right now. I mean, it's starting to ramp up tour packages, which they will look great because the bands have to recoup the money. But I personally am not yet at that. I'm not yet at that level yet.
Hmm.
As far as like gathering wise to like go to a show again.
Yeah. Well, a lot of bands are even canceling tours now,
Yeah, that
still
too.
because the COVID situation is getting it's getting high again.
Yeah,
So
so it's like, what can you do?
yeah.
But there was just something fun about. I mean, even like you could say the same for like it's a similar thing with what people would say about vinyl, where like in the olden days of how you would find your music is you'd go to the store, you'd go to the section, you'd go to the CD section, you'd go to the music section, you'd go to the genre that you wanted, and maybe you knew the band's name, or maybe you just were looking for something that day that started with the letter S or something,
Hmm.
and you'd walk in and you'd like, I don't know who these people are, but you'd pick the one that had the coolest cover, or you'd go for the artwork first, and like you said, then you get the booklet, you get all
Hmm.
the cool things, you get the photo on the back, you just get like a condensed version, you just get like a shrunk down thing of what you would get on vinyl. Sometimes
Right.
sometimes it felt like you were getting more than you were
Hmm.
getting with with vinyl, just because they could just print more pages, and it wasn't like they had to
Yeah.
pay for all of the artwork to be in a whole thing, and like a vinyl only had enough room for, like, if you open up a record, it only has so much room in there, so like
Hmm.
really you can't really put in like a whole booklet unless you like accommodated for it, which some things that do that, the booklet is like part of the inside of the of like the record. When you like, if it's like a gatefold one, it'll be attached to like one of the to like one of the covers, or like
Hmm.
one of the gates, I suppose you call it. Where like this, it was a booklet, you could pop it out, you could like, and like the booklets would have like some like interviews that you couldn't even get on the record because there were like there were like extra spaces. Like I know Earache Records had done something like that for a while, where like they were like the booklets would feature exclusive interviews that Earache did with the band that you can only read through the CD, through like buying the CD. So I thought that all those things were just really neat.
Yeah.
Sometimes the CDs could double as DVDs if you were lucky, or they'd come with a DVD. But I mean,
Yeah.
this is a little bit later.
Yeah, that was more towards like the late 2000s, early 2010s, where bands started putting these packages together. It was like a special edition. It would come with, sometimes it would be like a remastered version of the album, a live disc, with some live songs or bonus tracks, and then also a DVD that had extra stuff, like
Yeah,
making of or even like some like live, video recordings of the band.
I loved that. I loved those
Yeah.
packages when they would do that.
And there was some cool box sets too. I
Yeah,
remember. Ozzy had a box set that came out that was I think it was just called The Prince of Darkness, but it was like 4 or 5 CDs worth of music and like DVDs and like a booklet. It was a whole huge thing. And there was a lot of bands that did that kind of thing that like Metallica did Live Shit Binge and Purge, and they originally released that, I believe, on like cassette and stuff in the 90s. But then they re-released a DVD version that had the CDs and the DVDs, and that was really cool. It was a really nice box set.
It also had the backstage pass replica
Yes.
there of the Snake Pit.
Yep.
And it also had that cool like Hetfield stencil thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still have mine. I actually acquired 2 of those over time. One somebody just gave to me. I think my friend Alex gave it to me when he was just moving out of his parents and moving in with his wife, who was his new wife at the time. He doesn't have an old wife, but he hasn't. But she's just his wife now. Less new, but still great. They have a wonderful little girl together. Very, very happy for those people. So I came into contact with that. I came into contact with this. Yes, like it's some sort of freaking unidentified object.
A communicable disease.
Yeah. Oh my god. I came into contact with the Live Shit Binge and Purge albums. That's actually my favorite Metallica thing ever. I would watch that. I would listen to it, and then I would go home and watch it, or vice versa. And God, I had that on a loop. Every once in a while, I'll just get on a Metallica trip, and I'll look for the concert on YouTube, and I'll just watch that.
Seattle '89 is like the peak of Metallica. Like that was like them at their tightest, you know.
I remember one time I was going to like I went into a mall to get new glasses, or I was going for a dentist appointment or something like that, and I was wearing an Overkill T-shirt, and like I guess I don't know if he was just like the sales rep or if he was like one of the like dentist doctor people or whatever. But we were walking around, and he noticed the Overkill shirt, and he was like, I saw Metallica in '91 there, like at like in Madison Square Garden. It was like, Jesus Christ, that's unbelievable. And I was like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was like, do you still go to shows? And he's like, I tried, but like I'm 40. I don't know anybody. It's just kind of weird now. He's like, all my friends moved, so like, what am I gonna do? Stand here by myself and like next to like a bunch of like teenagers and feel like a creep?
Yeah,
that's a downer. Night of Downers is the name of the show today. But yeah, that must have been unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
I used to work with some guy, and like it was just like an office conversation. Normally, this person didn't have anything bright to say about anything, but the one time that he did, I'll give him credit for. His name was Jim. The discussion, his last name I can't remember. I guess he must not have been that important. Wow, what a great humanitarian, Chris. This particular fellow, the topic was, if you had a time machine, like, where would you go? Like, what would you do with it? And his answer was just like, he was like, honestly, I would go back in time to all of like the best concerts, and I would watch all of them. And I was like, you know what? I never thought about that. I would do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
still listening to us at this
great.
point, and you're on YouTube. Let us know let us know what time machine concert you would travel to go see, and then give us a big thumbs down for being bad humanitarians.
I'll tell you, especially going off with live albums. This is another reason why, again, the CD I think is the superior format in terms of physical formats, is that it had the near 80-minute playtime, and which and this is actually kind of what helped drive CD sales and made them kind of overtake vinyl, is that LPs only have 22 minutes aside. So, if you wanted like a long live album, you had like it was like 2 or 3 records
Yeah.
in the thing. Well, whereas they could put all that on one CD or 2 CDs.
Yeah, which
Um,
was just so much more appealing.
yes, yeah, because you didn't
And I
have
have
to
everything
like
here.
interrupt it in the middle of the song, so you could flip the record over.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything bad, because records are great quality sound, and you really can't beat the sound quality of records. But the convenience of having a CD that has the decent sound quality, not quite as good as record, but still better than any other digital format, and and B, also you don't have to flip it over every 5 songs. That's a huge advantage.
Right. I mean, you also feel like you also feel a lot more like you're there
Yes.
because there's nothing that's stopping because like it's not like any point during the show the band's like, all right, we got to flip ourselves over and like,
Don't forget to flip the record over to side B.
yeah. And then they could start playing again. Like it's not like any of that happens. Although it'd be funny.
Yeah.
um,
Um, and I think also for comedy albums, that was a huge advantage too, because when they did comedy albums on vinyl, again, you only had the 22 minutes aside, and most comedy shows are like 1 to 2 hours, depending on the comic and what, whatever special it is.
right.
So the CD kind of really revolutionized comedy on albums, because you could put a full comedy show on one CD, you know. And I remember, growing up listening to all, like Jeff Foxworthy and all these different comics on CD, because it was just, you could listen to their whole show. And a lot of times they would release like a box set of like multiple different shows, multiple dates. So it was cool, because you could kind of like, hear different sets that the comics were doing, and you didn't have to buy 10 friggin' LPs to do it.
Right. I mean, I like while we're still on the topic of box sets, the one that I actually still have that Metallica one, but I think I still have there's a Slayer one that they put out.
Hmm.
Don't really listen to Slayer a whole lot anymore, just mostly because there was an autograph signing many years ago, and Kerry King was there, and this was when Dave Lombardo was still in the band too. It was those two, Scott Ian, Gary Holt from Exodus, and eventually Slayer, but this was pre-Slayer. Um, I don't know if Jeff Hannon was still alive at the time, but he wasn't there. I think this was post Spider Bite, but he like was still alive. Or no, this was before I saw them, so he just wasn't there. And Billy Sheehan was there also, which was kind of he was kind of out of place just because everybody else was like a thrash metal musician, but Billy Sheehan can do what he wants. He's amazing. Um, and I had met, and like Kerry King was one of my favorite guitar players at the time, so I was really nervous to just like get his autograph and just talk to him, because I was like, wow, I can have a real conversation with this guy who's like my hero and whatever. And like the first song I learned on electric guitar in full was Angel of Death, um, which is not hard, which is not easy to play at that speed. It's not a difficult song to play, but it is a difficult song to play at the right speed. But once you get it, you got it, and it's like gravy. But I'm like all nervous. I'm quaking in my little space boots. I'm like, oh man, Kerry King's here. I'm gonna talk to Kerry King, and like I'm trying to like have a conversation with him, and I'm trying to say, hey man, thank you for everything. Like you kind of got me where I'm going, and I play music too and whatever. I was probably like the 80,000th person in his life to tell him that, but like he didn't even try to acknowledge it. He never looked up. He just signed the thing. He didn't hear a word I said. He signed it as quick as he could, and he just like he did like a wrist flick, and he was like, all right, off you go. And I was like, what the fudge with that?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, then I went to go talk to Dave Lombardo, who was the drummer, Classic Slayer drummer. For those of you who don't know, which should be none of you. And I remember I had seen a show on like I forget the name of the channel, but it was like all skateboarding and like action sports and extreme sports and stuff. It was a really cool channel on cable, and I don't remember what it was called. But there was an episode of some motocross show, and he was on it, and I just remember thinking, oh, this is weird. Maybe I should watch it. And like he has a whole motocross and like dirt bike track that him and his like kids would like go on.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah. So like we were talking about his kids and like motocross and stuff, and he was just a really super nice guy. And then when they kicked him out of the band, I just stopped listening to Slayer because like I was like, all right, well, Jeff's dead.
Yeah.
Tom is indifferent to everything, so he's turning a blind eye to this. He wants to keep making money, and Gary King probably has him by the balls. Gary's in there because, well, he deserves.
He wants to make money.
Yeah, he wants to make money, and he's great, so he should make money. And I was like, okay, well, I understand. The one person that I legitimately liked is like out of this band, so and like I don't want to give this guy any my reasons to dislike this one person who is clearly the driving force of all the nonsense shenanigans. My dislike for this person is much more than my like for the rest of the band members that are even in the band now. So I cannot in good faith give them any more money. So I don't listen to Slayer anymore.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to see them with Jeff, and also I saw them live with Gary Holt, but Dave Lombardo was still on drums. That was after Jeff got his injury that caused him to have to retire.
Yeah, I think we went to the same show. That was actually
it was the Big Four show.
Yeah, well, there was the Big Four, and there was also the other show.
Yes, at the Izod Center.
Yes. Oh, God, what was the name of that tour? That I saw the thing on Facebook that actually happened like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it was
like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago.
What was it
I got
called?
violently ill the day after that show. And I didn't drink. It wasn't from drinking. I literally just caught something at that show.
Yeah, we
and
had
was like
Majorska, thanks to
Roberto.
to Roberto Sanchez's friend.
Yeah. Roberto with his Majorska.
Oh, that's gross. Freaking gross. That's the worst vodka.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was fun. I remember, like, I didn't have tickets, and then that day, like, one of, like, Roberto's, like, everybody that I knew was going to that show, but me, because I just didn't, because, like, I didn't know or I couldn't get tickets or whatever, and I happened to have the day off, so Roberto calls me, and he's like, hey, are you, like, going to the show? I don't know if that's, like, that's how I don't know if that's how we used to talk, but...
People were like, yo, man.
Yeah, he's like, yo, man, you going to the show tonight? I'm like, no, I don't have tickets. Oh, that sucks. All right. So, like, I'm like, okay, so, like, I'm like, whatever, have fun. So, maybe, like, 45 minutes later, he's like, he calls me up, and I'm like, yeah, hello. He's like, you lucky fuck. We got you a ticket. And I'm like, what? Yeah, just meet me at Izod. He talked like he was drunk sometimes, but he's not drunk. And he's just like, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just meet you there in like 2 hours. I'm just gonna leave my house now. So like, there I am at the show. I didn't have to pay for my ticket because the other person just had already paid, and they were like, whatever, I can't go.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
And I think Testament played.
Yep, and Megadeth.
First album, and Megadeth played Peace Sells. Was that?
No, they played Rest in Peace.
Yeah, they played Rest in Peace. That's right.
They were still doing the Rest in Peace tour, and originally Slayer was supposed. Yeah, because originally Slayer was supposed to be on the first lane because we went to that show too. Remember?
Yes, we did.
That was in Scranton. Yeah,
that was a great show.
but Tom Araya had to have back surgery, so he had to they had to sit out the tour, and
Right.
then they did this other tour, and Megadeth was still doing the Rust in Peace thing, but they're like, okay, we'll just bring Testament and Slayer out now instead of
Right.
Exodus and Testament.
And Exodus did Bonded by Blood.
Yeah,
God, that was great. I remember I remember meeting Exodus like after the show, but I also remember like
yeah.
the Chuck Billy thing was great. So
Oh yeah, meeting him in the mall. That was
yeah,
just
that was so awkward. I cringe when I think about it now. So
yeah,
those of you who don't know, which should be none of you, Testament is a great thrash metal band. They're still going strong. Chuck Billy is the big 6'6" Native American man that sings for the band. Um, he is an intimidating fellow, but he is nice and just. Um, we had a lot of time to kill before the show, so we were walking around Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is a pretty damn small town. It's the town where the office is like allegedly takes place, which is about the only claim to fame that town has. So in the mall, they were
yeah.
building an office related store too, and they had a whole display, which of course me and Roberto took pictures of doing "Suck It." So right in front of right in front of like cardboard cutouts of like Jim and Pam. So way to go again. Really setting myself up for Humanitarian of the Year award here. Um, did that. Went through the mall and we're in the food court and we're going to get food and like Chuck Billy is over like um he's going to Nathan's or whatever. Roberto notices and like Roberto's just like, oh hey Chuck, and like and Chuck's just like is like, oh yeah hi, and like he just turns around and goes about his business, and like me and this fellow Ian that we used to hang out with. Ian was an interesting character. I think he still is an interesting character, but he was an interesting character then too. And we notice, and we're like in like our like big like metal garb and everything, like with our battle jackets and at the time I had tremendously long hair. We all did.
Mhm.
I
I remember me and Roberta were just sitting there, like we saw Chuck, we waved at him, but we were like sitting there just eating our food because we were starving because there was nowhere to eat
no.
in Scranton except for the friggin' food court at the mall.
Uh,
So we're like me and Roberta like we're all right, we're just gonna eat our food, and we just waved at Chuck and he's like, "Hey guys," and he started walking away.
No, he started going towards Nathan. No, he went like he was walking away. And he went towards Nathan's, and then me and Ian saw him, and we made a beeline for him. And he like noticed, and he was like, "Oh God!" And he like left as like this big 6'6" guy just disappeared.
Ooh.
Like at the scene, and we like lost him for a minute. So we're waiting online, and and then Ian notices that he's since ventured over to like the Jamba Juice or whatever. And we make a beeline for that too, and he's the only person in line. So we get there and we're like right in front of him and like he's like right in the middle and like we get up to him and he's just like he just goes like the cashier turns to him and as we like get to him he goes, "Oh yeah, can I get a strawberry banana smoothie?" And like me and Ian are just like, "Oh, we gotcha." And he's like, "Oh shit."
I think one of my favorite moments about that little situation too was
Well,
the
right
fact that
after.
we saw the bass player of Testament and none of us recognized him, and he actually looked happy to see us, like he would have
No.
talked to us, and we just walked right past him like a bunch of jackasses.
Well, no.
Oh
On top
gosh.
of that, me and Ian felt bad after that because we saw the life deflate from Chuck Billy's eyes, where he was like, "Oh God damn it, I can't just get a moment in peace in this freaking town." So like, we felt bad after we talked to him,
Yeah.
and so like we noticed like Glenn Drover and who was the former Megadeth guitarist filling in for Alex Skolnick,
Hmm.
the Testament guitar player who was on tour, I think with supporting Rodrigo y Gabriela because I think he produced them.
Yeah.
Um, So we saw like the other people in the band, and like we did like we felt bad, and so like we didn't want we felt like discouraged to approach them. Meanwhile, Greg Christensen's like, "Oh hey guys," just freak.
Just fucking ignored him.
So we just freaking blow him off.
Oh god. Yeah, another funny story from that day. I literally almost died because me and Roberto were literally right up against the rail. Right,
Oh yeah,
we were
security
like
was
on the rail.
terrible. It was the
Yeah.
freaking college frat
Well,
boys.
yeah, security was terrible, and also as soon as Megadeth came on and started playing Rust, because this is the Rust in Peace 20th anniversary tour. As soon as they started playing, the crowd surged forward, and I was
Mm-hmm.
literally like, I had to have had broken ribs. Like I was crushed by like 100 people pushing into me, and I was like stuck by like so I couldn't go anywhere because I
Oh,
was at the
I
rail.
remember nobody could move.
Yep.
Like I mean, I was thinking if this is the way I have to go out, then all
I
right,
was like, all
I'll
right, I'll
take
die
it.
like this. It was,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I'm fine with that. Oh, I finally managed to after like 3 or 4 songs, I finally managed to weasel my way out and kind of get into the back of the crowd more, so I didn't die.
Jesus. Do you remember the kid who re-broke his arm?
Yeah.
There was a kid with a broken arm who, like, I mean, he shouldn't have been he shouldn't have really been, like, moshing or crowd surfing, but he did anyway. Um,
Yeah.
so he was in a cast, and the security guard, like we said, they were all, like, they were these college frat boy douchebags that, like, they clearly did not want to be there. They were just doing it to, like, pick up money. They didn't know how to do their jobs. They weren't
Yeah.
trained properly, and none of them looked like they really worked out at all.
No, and they were just letting the crowd servers literally just drop on the floor. Like they weren't even
Yeah.
trying to like save them.
Yeah, like they weren't.
And eventually, Dave
Eventually,
Mustaine actually grabbed one of them and like was gonna friggin' kick the guy's ass. Like
yeah.
friggin' walked up to him, grabbed him by the shirt, started friggin' screaming at him, and then like threw him.
Well, it was
I was
right
like,
after that. It was right after
yeah,
like the kid fell on the floor, broke his like the kid was in a cast. He fell on the floor because like he was crowd surfing. He thought that the security guard would do their job.
mhm,
He hit the floor, then he's like screaming because he falls onto his arm, re-breaks his arm. He gets up and he gets in the security guard's face. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you didn't catch me at all. I freaking probably re-broke my arm, a freaking jackass." And the security guard tackles him.
mhm.
Instead of saying I'm sorry or like trying to subdue the situation, this idiot just decides, "Oh well, I'm just gonna tackle this guy who just told me that he fell and re-broke his arm. So let me see if that fixes things." And then after that, Dave Mustaine noticed, and Dave Mustaine got freaking pissed.
Yes,
And I remember Lee Altus, the guitar player from Exodus and Heathen, like just did not like them. So he was kicking some of them in the back of the head.
yeah. Dave Mustaine spit on the one guy too. Before he actually grabbed him, he spit on the back of his head,
Yeah,
and then he went up and like grabbed him and like friggin' reamed him out.
it was the middle of the song too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty cool. It was like I wish the kid didn't break his arm. I'm sure he's fine now. This has been 10 years ago. Unless he just kept doing the same thing. I mean, well, you know what? He's probably had like a good year and a half to heal, assuming he's been doing this every show since then, and he has never his arm has never properly healed. So maybe now it's okay.
He'd probably have to get it like cut off and put like a robot arm on at that point.
I mean, why not? He's a psychotron.
He's a
But
psychotron.
not ionic. What the hell are the lyrics? Not bionic, not organic, just a cyborg.
Not a cyborg. I
Not a
don't remember.
cyborg. I
It's
don't
been a
know.
long time since I listened to that song.
It's a wacky song, but it's
It's, it was about like Marvel Comics person, isn't it?
is it about like Cable?
I don't know if it was Cable. Hold on. I mean, Dave Mustaine wrote like a number of like comic book related songs, like Holy Wars, The Punishment Due. Like the Holy Wars part is its own thing, but then the Punishment Due is about the Punisher.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, I think it was originally two songs, and then he just like liked how they went into each other or something. I don't know. I read it a long time ago, and I don't remember the exact reason why it became like one full song, but whatever.
Oh, Deathlock. It's about Deathlock.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah. So What tangent was I off on now? Um, yeah, so that was a fun show, and then afterwards we hung out with Exodus, and like Lee Altus was telling us about all the crazy stories of like doing drugs and hanging out with like all the Russian people, with like all the Russian gangsters in
Wait, in freaking
Beach,
Brighton
which
Beach.
is not too far from my old home, and it's still not even that much further from my current one.
Yeah.
But I mean, over there, a bunch of the Russian gangsters hang out. Sometimes you catch them, sometimes they catch you. Um, um, how are we doing on the moral cards today? Do I have a yellow card or a red card right now, or am I just out of cards? Um, uh, I know I'm not playing with a full deck, but but yeah, I've heard that Vladimir Kozlov like hangs out over there too. So I mean, they're probably like drinking drug buddies or whatever. But like Lee Altus was crazy because like he was telling us about that as he like got off the phone, like telling his like young 3-year-old daughter like good night. So like he was just like, yeah, tell your mother I love her, I love you. Okay, you have sweet dreams, baby. And then he was like, by the way, I was doing coke the other day.
I that was like I remember when I drove up because me and Roberto had gone to get the car while you guys were hanging out with Exodus, and I pull up next to you guys, and the first thing Lealtis does is give me like a high five as I open the window and he just high fives me through the window.
That's great.
It was amazing. It was the
Yeah,
coolest thing ever.
everybody from Exodus was just so frigging awesome. Like Rob Dukes was
Yeah.
cool. And just like everybody was cool. We were talking about like Adult Swim and stuff,
Yeah.
and like then we were like talking about the security guys, and then we all was like, "Oh yeah, those guys were douchebags. I kicked him in the head," and I was like, and he's like, and then he's like doing a kicking motion, and he's pointing at his boot, and he's like, "This is German steel toe. It's really gonna hurt. I hope that guy doesn't wake up." And I was like, "Okay." It was just so funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those were the days.
the Dems was the days. All right. Do we have anything else to add to the CDs? I know we've kind of like, I know we've kind of strayed
We
quite
went
a
on a
bit,
little bit of a tangent, but
but we've strayed quite a bit. But the CDs, they were a very magical device. They still make them today, by the way. Oh, this is where I was going. So like, so when they started doing a lot more of like the DVDs and everything like that, and like all of these like bonus things that they could package in the CDs, they some places would even like do a bundle with a T-shirt to go inside the CD. Some, I mean, they still do
uh
that now, but like the CDs, they're like it's like not it's like more out of style, but
yeah.
there's still like a fair amount of there's still enough people that will still buy it to give companies a reason to keep making them, although in much shorter quantities now.
Yeah, well, as of 2020, vinyl has now surpassed CDs again in terms of physical record sales.
Yes,
Because people
all
like to
this
collect
weird,
vinyl.
yeah, because all this weird retro stuff, like kind of around like that tour where we were just mentioning, like around that time, like thrash metal and all this '80s stuff was just coming back into fashion or whatever, and
Hmm.
like it was just trendy again to do '80s things, which you and I never cared about that. We were already doing that anyway. Not to sound like hipster douchebags, but like we were outsiders, and that was what we got glued to.
Hmm.
And and the vinyl started coming back. So now, yes, vinyl has surpassed it in popularity. See, cassette tapes tried to make a comeback too, and like you still see them every now and then, but not really a whole lot. Like they were kind of like the little engine that couldn't. Where like vinyls just like came back. I remember watching like a Joe Rogan with James Hetfield from Metallica a few years ago, and he was talking about how weird it is where like he would come home and his kids would be listening to something on like a turntable that they
Hmm.
bought, or like a record player that they bought from like a friggin' like an Urban Outfitters or something, and they're just like, "Dad, you gotta check out this really cool thing," and he's like, yeah, I had them. And they were like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yes, I have them with my band on it. And they were like, really? And he's like, yes, you can go to the store and you can buy my albums. And they were like, on vinyl? He's like, yes. And they were just like, they were just flabbergasted because they like didn't because I think they were like, in their like early teens. So
Mm-hmm.
just like this was a thing already. Like they just thought it was a new thing, which is just kind of hilarious. Um, but what I was saying was like was that they would do all of these extra like bundles with the CDs just because we were getting closer into that digital era that we're in now, and like the record companies were like just trying to like get every penny that they could, but while they could still get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this it helped CDs for a little while, but but like the inevitable was gonna happen. And I mean, the minute that like Spotify basically took over and like became the number one thing, like there was like they kind of just had to throw the towel in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you will see CDs and you still can go pick them up. But we have moved into the digital age, and vinyl
Yeah.
like the number one of the tangible items, but the CD also really fantastic idea, wonderful invention. Bridge the gap between vinyl and cassette,
Mm-hmm.
where it was durable, you could listen to whatever you needed to, you still got the whole package, and it was small enough where you could take it with you.
Yeah. I think that's a good ending note.
Yes, I think so too. Everybody,
That's my
everybody
favorite
who's.
format.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I would say this is my favorite format
Yeah,
because of all the reasons you just listed, basically. So.
yeah. Maybe it is mine too. I don't know. Well, my favorite in terms of listening is definitely the vinyl, but
Mm-hmm.
I do have a strong bond with the CDs too. I mean, I like every type of music, but every format you can get it is awesome. But I think vinyl and CD, those are the two that I have the strongest connection with.
Yeah.
But don't take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself. Buy a CD player or use your PlayStation 2 if you have one. Um, Pop in one of those suckers and just check it out. Listen to some really cool stuff. Listen to it through a different medium if you've never done it before. If you have done it before, bust out your old CD, bust out your Walkman, and just put it on there, and you would have a lot of fun. You'll have a lot of fun. You'll revisit a lot of memories. Try to do it in like pitch black in the dark so that you could really immerse yourself in the experience. And while you're at it, just, take some candles, put them around you in like a five-pointed circle of any kind that you might wish to, and pray to your favorite god in a non-pagan ritualistic fashion. Or pagan ritualistic fashion if you would like to. I'm not going to judge here. Um, Speaking of judges, you can give us fatal judgments on YouTube by subscribing to our channel, giving us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, commenting on our stuff, and letting us know that we're either cool or we're idiots. That's Why Does This Exist? That's our podcast. You can find us wherever you can find it, anything in the world of digital media devices. And if you're feeling
Except on CD. We're not on
oh,
CD,
I
unfortunately.
was getting to that. If you're feeling froggy, download one of our podcasts. Why not download one of our episodes or all of our episodes and onto your computer and then rip them to a CD if your computer is capable. If not, you can buy USB extensions where you'll be able to do that. So why not take a load off? I've been Chris,
Sure. And I've been Rob.
and remember, question everything.
Good night.